Read 11 verses, Sanskrit and English together, and then we'll come back and look at the purports. Text 27. Sarvan Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Atmasam Yama Yogagno Juvati Jnanadipite. Translation. Those who are interested in self-realization in terms of mind and sense control offer the functions of all the senses as well as the vital force, breath, as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. 28. Travya yagyastapo yagya yoga yagyastatapare swadhyaya jnana jnanascha yataya samshita virtaha. There are others who, enlightened by sacrificing their material possessions in severe austerities,
take strict vows and practice the yoga of eightfold mysticism. The others study the Vedas for advancement of transcendental knowledge.
29. Apane juvati pranam, prane panam tatapare, prana panagati rudva, pranayama parayanaha, apare niyatahana, pranan praneshu juvati. And there are even others
who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, and they practice stopping the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming, and incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Some of them, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice.
Well, this is an interesting point here. We have a religious, this is supposed to be a religious book, supposed to be teaching religion, and they're talking about stopping your breathing, offering the outgoing breath into the incoming breath. So what does breath restraint have to do with religion or God? But this is the point, that there are some aspects of religion, so to speak, or making spiritual progress that in and of themselves are not spiritual, they're material, but they can be used towards reaching a spiritual end. In other words, why does one want to stop the breathing? Because his mind becomes peaceful. If he can stop his mind and make it peaceful, then he can make his senses peaceful, because the mind is the controller of the senses. If he can make his senses peaceful, then he can advise his mind. Through his mind, he can tell him, now, engage these senses in activities of religiousness, of thinking about me or doing some service for me. The hands can do sweeping the temple for me. The tongue can taste spiritual food or chant the transcendental names of God. So here we have a breathing exercise that can be used in the attainment of God consciousness. And it shows that all things can be used. Practically, we use automobiles in the service of Krishna. We were constructing a house. Constructing a house, that's ordinarily a material activity. Because we see even the animals do that, the insects do that. All the different little species take care of getting some kind of home arrangement. So there's nothing great, nothing spiritual. But if we use that tendency of constructing something, and we make a home, a nice home for the Lord, a temple where people can come and worship the Lord, see Him, hear about Him, learn about Him, taste His food remnants, make offerings, all these things. Then that house that we made for Him turns everything into spirit. Anyone who comes in with practically any idea will get changed, will get benefited by seeing and coming in contact in that atmosphere. So controlling the mind, making the mind be peaceful is not in and of itself spiritual, but it's very helpful because it's in the mode of goodness. It's like eating vegetarian foods, eating fruits and vegetables and milk and grains. Very nice. Or, so you eat all these nice foods. Does it mean you're spiritual? No. Because pigeons eat food like that too. Other animals, groundhogs eat all those things. That doesn't make them spiritual. But it's a start. We're going in the right direction. Celibacy. If someone practices celibacy, does it mean he's spiritual? No. Celibacy in and of itself is not spiritual. But if one practices celibacy, have a much easier time fixing his mind and senses on Krishna. So that's why it's accepted. Things that are favorable for devotional service may be accepted, even though they may not be in and of themselves completely spiritual. They can be transformed into spiritual when the Krishna element is added. And that can be done not just whimsically, but it has to be done in the direction of an expert spiritual master who can guide on how to use those things in Krishna's service. Otherwise, if he doesn't know how to use those things in service of Krishna, then he'll end up using them for Maya. So he has to be very, like for example, Prabhupada didn't recommend keeping money in the bank much. If you keep it in the bank, they'll find some way to tax it, or someone will steal it or something. Better use it for good purpose, printing books or building a temple. Then that's a good use. And because as soon as we get a lot of money, we stock money, I think I don't need to work anymore. I'll go on vacation. I'll go to the Bahamas. I'll take some, it's a good time. That's how Maya will dictate. You got all that money, why are you going to work? What are you gonna? You don't need to. You got plenty of money. Take a little relaxation. Been working too hard. Back hurts a little. Maya will dictate. So we have to be careful even about, Rupa Goswami says, Atyahar prayasascha, prajalpo niyamagraha, janasangas chalolyam cha, shadbir bhaktir vinashati. 6 things are very detrimental for devotional service. Eating too much or collecting too much. Atyahara means eating too much, collecting too much. Atyahara prayasa. Prayasa means over endeavor for mundane things that are difficult to achieve. Just like someone wants to make a house. All right, he has his family make a house. But if he wants to make it a palace, like some people do, they want to make it the best house. Spend everything. But then it's over endeavor. That over endeavor will interfere with your devotional service. Because instead of going to worship the Lord, you'll be polishing your house. You'll be finishing up your house for your aggrandizement. It may be mixed, may not be purely aggrandizement. You may also want to invite people over to teach them about Krishna, that's good. That's transcendental. If you know how to use a nice house, then it's all right. But if you use it just to attract people so they'll say, oh, what a success he is. Look how wonderful his house is. Wish we had. So they'll be envious. That's not spiritual. That's just material. So one has to learn how to do it. Prayasacha. Don't over endeavor for material things. So then Atyaha Prayasascha Prajalpa. Prajalpa means mundane talk, village talk, just ordinary talk. That can become, in one sense, there's no exact harm in telling someone what happened. Some news has happened. But if one is over, like we do, you get these newspapers. Now they don't use newspapers so much. They used to use. On Sunday, this thick. Some people read everything. They want to know all the news, or some people just watch CNN. They still have CNN? They're going still? They like to watch CNN. I know they think, if I don't know what's going on, how can I live? People think I don't know. I have to know everything that's going on. So he's got to be all primed up when he goes to work. He knows all the news. He knows what's going on in Syria. He knows what's going on. He knows who won the football game. He knows what President Shmulsi said, and he's got everything together. Would you like to buy a book? No, I got too many things at a time. Got to read the newspaper. So that can be interfering with your devotional service. And when it becomes prajalpa, when it becomes, what is that word? What's the word? Gossip. Yes, gossip is a good word for prajalpa. When it becomes gossip, then it really turns sour, even more sour, it's more detrimental. Because now you're criticizing, finding faults. What good is that? Doesn't help anything. Then prajalpa niyamagraha. Niyama agraha means following the regulative principles. No, not following the regulative principles. There's regulative principles. If one doesn't follow them, then he can't make spiritual advance. Or if he follows them very enthusiastically, but he doesn't know what they mean, he doesn't know what they're for, then he doesn't get the benefit. Somebody thinks, like I know I had experience once, some relative of one of my godbrothers came, and he was a religious person, or trying to be or something, and we served him some prasadam. So he took some prasadam, put in a little ball or something like that, and threw it over his shoulder, put it away. So we asked, what was that? What was that little ritual? He said, well, in our tradition, we used to take a little bit of each preparation before we begin to eat, and we put it on a little dish and we'd offer it to the rabbi. And then after we offered it to him, then we would take it, sanctify it. But in due course of time, it was considered the rabbis weren't pure enough, weren't so pure. So we dispensed with that routine, that ritual. So now we just throw it away. Why do you throw it away? Well, it's not, we don't, because we don't. So see the point, he didn't understand the point. The point actually of that ritual that he was following, which was a good ritual, is you offer to the Lord through the spiritual master, through the teacher. He offers it to the Lord, and then that way the food goes and it becomes spiritualized and we eat it. Anyway, so if you don't understand the point, then you may just get something, go for the external. Or in the say the Hindu culture, they have their story that there were several Brahmins at the river, and when they go to take their bath, they found that one of the cups they bought a cup just like that. So the Brahmin, when he'd go in, he'd leave his cup on the shore, and then he'd take his bath. So then he started coming out, and because all the Brahmins got exactly the same cup, and they put it right next to his. You couldn't tell which one was his. So next time he got a little stone and he put it on his. And then he came back to take his bath, and they all had a little stone. They thought it was one of the rituals they were supposed to do. So they all put a stone there. So they didn't understand what it was. Atyahar prayasascha prajalpo niyamagra jana sangha, to associate with materialistic persons. Very detrimental for spiritual life. It's hard to do it. It's hard to associate closely with materialists and make progress in spiritual life. Therefore, it's cautioned. Lolyam. Lolyam means greedy. He's greedy for more wealth than he needs, more everything that he needs. He's greedy. He wants what someone else has, not satisfied with what he has. They did a study in Silicon Valley. They interviewed millionaires. They took a bunch of millionaires and said, now you have $1 million, what are you going to do? You going to retire? And no, I got to keep working. Why? Well, I have to make 10 million. Why? Because I have to do so many things, and he has his plan. Then they took so many $10 million guys, millionaires, said, so what do you think now? You have 10 million. Enough? No, I got to go for 100 million. And everyone was just thinking they're never satisfied. Whereas a person making advancement in spiritual life, he should be satisfied with whatever he's got. Whatever you got, yeah, if the Lord wants to give you more, he'll give me more. Even if I have more, and the Lord doesn't want me to have it, he'll take it away. There's a story that Prabhupada, they told him in Bengali story that God, in one of his forms, has 10 hands. So with your 2 hands, what can you take? You can't take all the things he gives you. Or if you have so many things, he can take them all away with his 10 hands. You can't protect them. So either way, you're in the hands of the Lord. So those are the 6 things that are detrimental for devotional service. So they're, in and of themselves, they may be material, whether you have more or less, but still, the sages, the saintly persons, and the Lord has indicated that if you follow these principles, you can gradually work your way towards being purely spiritual. It may not be possible to go to completely spiritual things immediately, purely because we're not there, we're not pure, but we can work towards it. And the yoga process is like that. Part of the yoga process is described as pranayama. It's just exercises, just breathing exercises or sitting exercises. What does that have to do with God? It doesn't make any sense. But it makes sense when you understand the whole principle, the whole system of the yoga, or the whole system of the philosophy. Like demigods. There are demigods who are in charge of different aspects of the universe under the control of Krishna, God. So God is also a manager, big manager, huge manager, whole universe, not just one universe, unlimited universes. He's managing. And he does it through his assistants, the demigods. And those demigods are sometimes some of the scriptures recommend that people worship demigods. Why? Why do they do that? Because, first of all, the demigods are supplying their goods. They're supplying rain, they're supplying sunlight, they're supplying moonlight. All these nice things are coming, demigods. It's not that they're the actual owners of those things, but they're administrators. So some respect can be due to them. Thank them for. It's like you thank if he comes and fixes your wire, your internet connection, you thank him. Thank you very much. You pay him and you thank him. You respect him. So some respect for demigods is good. And the other thing is, by doing that, then because the demigods are more pure, they're more advanced than ordinary people, one gets to associate with them, and they're good people to associate with. They're very God conscious. And so gradually, by associating with them, pleasing them, they'll speak highly of him, of you, to their authority. Isn't that the way it works in a business? If a foreman in his department, he has some really outstanding workers, he passes on that knowledge to the higher ups. But these people really, they really work hard, and then he gives them an award, gives them a promotion. So that promotion brings them closer to the top. Up. Similarly, when we get promoted by if the demigods are pleased with us, then they'll put in a good word for us, so to speak, with the Supreme Lord. The Lord knows everything, but still he allows his devotees and his associates to converse with him and apparently inform him of so many things. So by worshiping demigods, then he can get favors from the demigods. Now he should use the favors not to get more material things, but even if he does, he's still now connected with demigods that are very spiritual. And someday he might realize through their prayers that, hey, look, this is my close friend now. He's my supplier. Look how spiritual he is. He's praying to God. He's praying to Krishna. He's saying he wants to give everything. So then he says, well, maybe I should learn from him. I should follow in his footsteps. He's more wealthy than me. He's more intelligent than me. He's more cultured. Maybe I'll learn from him. So good association is so valuable. The Vedas, they teach worship the demigods. Because by worshiping the demigods, you get results quick. When you worship them and they reward you, you get quick rewards. So then it means the worshiper begins to have faith in the system. This works. You worship higher ups and you get results. Good. So then when he hears that, why are you just asking demigods for material things? Why don't you get something better than the material things? And then he doesn't know what the better thing is, but by reading the Vedas, which also the demigods recommend, and they also speak. Oftentimes, demigods like Shiva, Indra, Brahma, they speak in the Vedas. So I'm hearing what they're saying, and they're saying Vishnu is the supreme. You should worship Vishnu. Or Brahman, even if they say Brahman is supreme, you should worship the spirit. So then they go towards that. So it's a gradual process. Not everyone can immediately take to pure devotional service. Shuddha bhakti. That's best. You can do it immediately. Krishna says, Sarvadhanam, give up everything, just surrender to me. I'll liberate you from all reactions to material duty. If someone does it, has full faith, that's it. That's good. But that's difficult for everyone. So if he can't do that, he can work his way up. And it may take one life or many lives, but he never loses the benefits of those activities that he's engaged in for the service of Krishna, for making spiritual advancement. That makes a lot more sense than if you don't make it in one life, you get condemned forever to go to hell and burn. So therefore, most people will lean towards this idea. Yeah, why can't you make some progress this life? And if you don't quite make it all the way, continue next life. Makes good sense. That's the way it is. So as we learn all this knowledge through the demigods too, demigods, they'll tell us about the next life. They'll tell us about the heavenly planets. We can't see the heavenly planets with our eyes. We can't go there. But we hear from them. And they say, yes, I live in the heavenly planets. They can come down here. We can't go there. So by association, it's like you may not have ever seen Hawaii, but when someone from Hawaii comes and you meet them and they say, yeah, it's beautiful. The palm trees are. So then you get a desire to go there. Any questions? Any of these points?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are some souls' duties like eternal from life to life? Or does sometimes the duty changes? I'm sure it does in some way, but I feel like, is it possible that one soul's duty is always eternally the same, no matter their next life?
Yeah. Like, for example, Yamaraj. Yamaraj is actually a position. It's a title for the one who's in charge of, you'd say, corrections, punishment. He handles justice. He's in charge of the police department. So he may do it for one life, and then he may choose, he may desire to go back to the spiritual world and serve Krishna in some capacity there. Or he might like that service. But whoever is serving as Yamaraj, Krishna is very pleased with them. They're doing a thankless task, and it's very difficult. They have to judge every soul. But he may choose to go on doing it for a long time. And he can do that. The Lord's happy to award whatever service the soul wants. However the soul wants to serve Krishna, Krishna is ready to make that facility available. It's like the material world. He makes it available for them. If one wants to come back again and again as an inhabitant of a certain place in the material world, let's say some beautiful island where there's nice breezes, and wants to come back, all right, he can come back and do some duty there. These duties we have in the material world are temporary. They're not necessarily eternal. One can do them again, life after life, if he wants to. But it depends on his actions and his piety. If while performing those duties, if he's not careful, he may commit some activities which are adharmic. They're against dharma, against proper behavior, and he'll have to take that in his next life, it'll act as a detriment. He won't be able to have such a high position. Okay, I'll turn it over to.
So we have a few more minutes left. Was there any more questions?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So I'm wondering, when we're preaching, how do we know that we're misrepresenting the movement? You know, like somebody, he may be trying his best preaching Krishna consciousness, but he still is unable to let go of some tendencies, maybe some hippie tendencies. You know, he's trying, and his preaching work is hopefully purifying. But if he's preaching and he's still attached to some certain, you know, false ego thing, and he maybe is misrepresenting, you know, ISKCON and Prabhupada's, you know, so I'm wondering what that kind of looks like, and how somebody who's in that position, what he should do, you know, and how can he be engaged in preaching properly. So
Well, the the act of the act of preaching Krishna consciousness is authorized and recommended by the by the spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya authorized everybody to preach the message of Krishna, which means Krishna's words and the topics of Krishna's service. Actually, he said in the Vedas, there's nothing more essential than three topics: relationship between the living entities and God, then how to engage in that relationship, and then the perfection of that relationship or pure devotional service. So that's Sambandha, Prayojana, and Avideya and Prayojana. Anyway, so we've been authorized to preach this movement to every town and village, everyone we meet. And so we get benefit as much as we repeat what we've heard from the bona fide authorities, we get purified by that. Now, if we concoct, we do a big disservice. So the main thing is, even if we personally are not doing everything that the spiritual master has asked us to do, if we tell the truth, then that's the best thing we can do for somebody else. So we may say, we may not ourselves be fully surrendered to Krishna, but we advise. Krishna says, fully surrendered to him. Now, as much as we are surrendered, or we're trying our best to be surrendered, then that message may have some potency if Krishna desires. And that's a sincerity. So, like one time I was talking with His Holiness Danavir Maharaj, and Maharaj was saying that sometimes there are some devotees that they're not able to take up all the practices, and maybe they have like a business or something. They're like connected with the devotees in some way, and they really appreciate the devotees. They appreciate Prabhupada and the movement, and they don't have any envy. So they don't want to like challenge the authority of the Vedas. by rejecting some part of it. If we reject some part of the Vedas, then we challenge the authority of the Vedas, which means what do? We challenge Vyasadeva. And when we challenge Vyasadeva, then we're saying that Krishna's empowerment, Krishna's, avatar is not perfect at describing perfect knowledge. Anyway, so such persons, Mars describing that such persons, as long as they don't become envious or try to criticize or try to imagine that I know better than Prabhupada actually. But they say, no, hey, I'm not doing everything that I should be doing. I'm trying hard, but I could be trying better. But you should totally go to the temple and take a prasadam and everything. Learn from them. They're going to help you a lot. Super cool people that totally get you right. So then even that person can make a lot of advancement and do a lot of service. Krishna is so kind. He doesn't restrict. Everyone can be involved. So if we want to be really strong preachers, though, then purity is the force. So that what is the essence of purity? Essence of purity, in one sense, is obedience. So we have to strive really hard to please the spiritual master. And by one drop of his mercy, we can become more humble than the blade of grass. And when we can become more humble than the blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others, not, expecting any for ourselves, then we can chant the holy name constantly. And when we can chant the holy name constantly, we can chant the pure holy name very soon. And we can chant that pure holy name. There'll be no question of mercy. There'll be all the mercy. So we need that mercy. And so there's a system that's called sadhana bhakti. And that's why Krishna has given us the spiritual master to help us become pure. So if you want to preach, good. So then we have something to measure by. It's a science. Okay, like my spiritual master asked me to do this, and I'm doing this much of that. Okay, in one sense, I'm, I can measure myself. In one sense, it's more subtle than that. But on our stage, when we're very immature, then we have externals to kind of go by. There's certain symptoms of attachment that the spiritual master is asking us to shed. So then we can try. So as long as you try, that's our success. Our sincere desire to please Krishna, that's our success. All right, thank you. Bhagavad-gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.